You have tuned in to the eCommerceaholic. My name is TJ Gamble, and I will be your host for this afternoon. Now, today I've got an interesting topic. I wanted to maybe just kind of break out of the platform specific stuff, not necessarily talk about just Magento related things, but talk about kind of e-commerce in general. And we're trying to provide value to you to make sure that you're getting more from your e-commerce store. That's our slogan, and we want to help you do that. So make sure you hit a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. That definitely helps us out. There's a lot of people on YouTube that are putting out a lot of spammy, scammy content, and they're just trying to get you to buy something. And that's not what we're here for. So I've got a great guest today, someone that knows a lot more about SEO than I do, even though I like to claim I've done a little SEO. That game is very different than it used to be. So I want you to welcome to the live stream. Bartosz, go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about how you got into SEO and your work there at Elephate.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, TJ. And that's a nice bottle. Yeah, so my name is Bartosz Góralewicz. Which probably will be difficult for most of you to pronounce, so I don't blame you. I'm a co-founder of Elephate agency from Poland, but we actually work mostly with US clients, like medium, large enterprise clients from mostly states, but some of them are international. And we specialize in technical SEO and JavaScript SEO. For large platforms.
Now, if you're watching this, go ahead and post your questions. We're going to go through my questions first, do a little bit of an interview, but you guys always ask the best questions. So be sure to post those in the chat, let us know, and we will get around to your questions here shortly. So, first thing we want to talk about is to make sure we understand what platforms we're talking about here. And Google is the first thing that comes to mind for everyone when they think about search and SEO and optimizing. But are there any other platforms or search engines that people really need to be paying attention to at this point?
If you're in e-commerce niche, I would say that I would stay with Google, unless you're in Russia or China, and then that would be a very good move, I guess. But yeah, I would stick with Google. And most of the stuff I'm going to talk about, actually all of the stuff, all of the technical SEO things, they are platform agnostic in a way. So if you optimize your store for Google, you're also helping out Bing, Yahoo, and other platforms.
So basically, most of the other platforms are pretty much following Google's lead on this, and if you're optimizing for that one, you're kind of covering the best practices for all of them. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's yes and no. I guess that they all have their own approach to things. But for example, with technical SEO, if you try to make your website as lean as possible, so if you remove all of the junk, it matters. It helps out Bing, Yahoo, Google. It's hard to say who was first and who's following who. But yeah, I would follow all the best practices, and then you don't need to worry about search engines.
So just do the right thing. You don't need to worry about it, huh? So what are the most common problems, most common mistakes that you see merchants make when it comes to their SEO?
That's a very exciting topic, actually. Most of the stores that would come to us would totally suck at any structure and indexing strategy. So imagine you have a store with 5,000 products. So in theory, your website should be 5, 6, maybe 7,000 URLs. So you would have like 7,000 URLs indexed in Google. That's almost never the case. So with all the filters that you can create, all of the search, indexable search for Google, which is a crazy idea. So first of all, structure and indexing strategy, because if you sell 100,000 products, for example, and they're very niche products, you probably won't get that much traffic for those. You need to build good categories, optimize them, structure them, focus on information architecture. So that's something that we almost never see done right with new clients. And I think that's something that's really misunderstood in the community, because right now with Google, do you want me to go deeper on that?
You go as
why
deep
this
as
is
you
a problem?
want. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go
Yeah,
deep. Let's talk about structure. Let's get it right.
So yeah, the problem with Google, some of the people in e-commerce community or even in SEO community way back in the day would think, okay, we're gonna index 1 million URLs, we're gonna get more rankings, and Google and other search engines with time as well got a little bit angry with that approach, because that would consume a lot of the resources, that wouldn't serve the best purpose to users, and so on. So they implemented a bunch of penalties and other things. Like if you look at visibility of eBay, for example, they are losing for last 4 years, mostly because of that. So they didn't get that right back in the day. And they would be going down slowly. So there's a lot of large platforms that still can't understand that. So you need to make sure that your structure is as lean as possible. So every single URL that's indexed in Google, that's Google facing, should be valuable for your users, and there should be like a little bit of logic behind it.
So are you saying that basically you're better off to index the category pages and not necessarily go after every single product for a large catalog?
I know a website that did that. I can't remember the name. One of the biggest parts manufacturer in States, but I would recommend that to like 99% of the stores. That's not the problem. Actually, the problem for a lot of the stores is they index so much junk from all the filters, all of the searches, and all of the other things, that they have problems indexing new products. So they would, like, with most e-commerce, there would be a lot of fluctuation between products. So there would be new stuff coming in because, you know how that works. And some other stuff would disappear from your stock. And for Google to follow up with that, it's fairly easy if your structure is clean. So imagine you're Google and you visit a store and there is 3 million URLs, and you need to figure out the logic, which URLs are important and which are not. And it gets really difficult without visiting them. So Google introduced something like crawler budget. So your store gets a budget depending on the quality of your content. So if your budget is, it's actually a hypothetical scenario, but let's say your budget is 3,000 URLs per day, and your store is 1 million pages. You can imagine that you will push a lot of new products that will never get indexed. And that's going to be a huge problem, because you'll be, okay, why am I not selling, I don't know, these watches when they're not indexed in Google at all? And this is like a major, major problem that people, that is maybe not easy, but it's relatively easy to fix with SEO agency. And most SEO agencies understand that at this point. So yeah, that's actually an interesting topic, and we go as deep as going to server logs and so on.
Yeah, how do you go about controlling exactly what is viewed as important to Google? Like, how do you tell them that these products are important, but don't really pay attention to these, really look more at the category these are in? Is there a specific technical approach on how you would manage all of that, especially across hundreds of thousands or millions of products?
That's we got into very interesting topic right now. So yeah, there is a lot of ways to do that. So Google has like not only Google, all of the search engines built a huge toolbox for us to do that. No indexing some of the pages. So if you no index, Google can still crawl a page but won't show them to users. To robots.txt, which is like extreme options, and few other ways of canonicalizing some of the content if it's duplicate, and few other ways that will help you out, make sure your structure is clean. So that's just for removing the stuff. But then if you want Google to understand that this category is like let's say that iPhone category is above iPhone 6, so there is a category in a product or whatever, maybe that wasn't a perfect example, but Apple category is above iPhone category, you need to create a proper structure from the scratch. So you need to make sure that you've got like everything. Like, how do I explain that over video? I'm wondering. But basically, you need to build your structure, information architecture. What we do is we draw that. There is this tool, draw.io, very basic, but where you can just take like circles and connect them with lines, something like a mind map in a way. And we draw every single category starting from the homepage to know how the structure is going to look like. And if you do that with your store, probably if you do that with your store, you will see some problems there from the first point. And that's how Google will look at that. So if there is like from homepage, you go to iPhone and then to Apple, for example, which is would be extreme example, there is a problem.
Okay. Now, you kind of mentioned that structure is one of the biggest problems you see on a site. Are there any other common pitfalls that you run into that merchants, every time you take on a new client, you're like, these are the first few things you check because this is such a common issue?
Yeah. So starting from duplicated content, which would be obviously a problem for all of the e-commerce store because your content is sometimes duplicated with external description. So if you sell iPhones, your description of an iPhone is most likely not unique. So that's one problem that we can live with. But then some of the stores will have thousands of products within the structure that would be identical between each other. They would be maybe just one word different. So there would be red iPhone and black iPhone, and all of them would be indexed. So if there is a lot of those, that's also showing a Google way that, again, you're a Google bot, you're visiting that page, and you visit 1000 page 1001, and all of them are almost identical. And that gets to the point when Google is going to start to wonder if there's still value if in indexing that and crawling that, because it's impossible to show that to users anyways, because if someone is looking for a product, you can't show 1000 identical ones. So you need to make sure that it's understandable for Google and users what the product are important for you for some reason, or maybe merge them or create any strategy for that. So duplication would be the second one. And going with the third most popular problem, and I'm wondering actually for how many of you will understand this problem. So for us, it's that most e-commerce stores, even if they sell quite a lot or deal with huge sales, income, whatever, they wouldn't crawl site on, like, let's say, monthly basis. And crawling is basically having a tool that would be an SEO tool or marketing tool, you name it, because there is a lot of features it has that would visit every single page within your store over an hour or a day, depending on your size, and see, okay, you have like 1000 404s, you have 3000 duplicated products, and so on. And that's the cheapest way for you to make sure that you don't drop in visibility next week. And that costs, like, depending on the size of your store, between, let's say, $100 per month to $1,000 per month if you're like 1 million or maybe 2 million page structure or bigger.
But that kind of talks about tools and services. Are there any tools or services that you find invaluable to help maximize a site's SEO?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And we even wrote if you Google Ultimate Guide to SEO Crawl, you will find article by my colleague Tomek. He's like extreme geek, so he went deep and he checked every single crawler on the market, and there's a list, so you can check it out. But so yeah, that's first of all, any crawler that you'll pick is fine. We go with right.com with a Y, so it's right.com. We love them. They are German, and as with Germans, the tool is very precise and well designed, like Volkswagen or Mercedes or whatever. So that's one we use, but go with any, like Deep Crawl is very cool. We use it as well. So there's a lot of tools that you can use that are that are very, very good. So deep crawl, right? Probably deep crawl would be a little bit easier to start with, but right is gonna give you a little bit more data. It's also fairly easy. So yeah, but then second tool that's actually free is actually second tool is Google Search Console, and make sure that you learn to use it enough, because there is so many problems reported in the new Search Console that was launched probably like a month or two ago, that it's embarrassing that that we didn't that before. So Google is sharing more and more data with us about how they see your website, how they, all of the problems like schema.org or whatever. And the third tool would be anything that monitors your visibility. So we have a lot of clients coming to us said, okay, we dropped 6 months ago. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money down the drain. So we usually count that in Maserati. So like, that's 7 Maseratis a month. Like, wow.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I'm definitely a car guy, and we measure things around here in Hellcats. It's Hellcat is like $60,000-$70,000.
Yeah,
so
I know,
it's like, man, that's like 3 Hellcats. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, some of our clients would lose like 12 or even 20 Hellcats per month. They would come to us after, like, they would come to us in December saying, I think we dropped in July. I was like, wow, that's a lot of time to and then even investigating the drop. Like, imagine that someone died in your kitchen 6 months ago and you want to find the murderer. Like, this is after 6 months, it's almost impossible. So we do a lot of like CSI to find out why they dropped, but that's usually this client has so many other issues that it's basically difficult. So tools to monitor visibility, to cut the story short, you go with Searchmetrics, SEMrush, Ahrefs. There's like, just look at any tool that measures visibility. And what those tools do is they scrape Google every single day to see, okay, who's ranking #1 for Viagra today? And if you rank #1, you get 10 points. Like, for example, I have no idea exactly how that works. If you rank #2, you get 9 points, and so on. So they built, out of millions of keywords, they built a visibility score based off actually all of the keywords that are popular in search. So that's something you can't do with just any tool you build. So I think that Searchmetrics has like 600 million keywords. They track weekly, so that's like, wow, or more now. I have no idea, but they track quite a lot of those.
So let's talk about, I mean, we talked about the mistakes that people commonly make. Let's talk about the things, instead of things you should not do, let's talk about the things you should do. So when you're taking on a new client, say I've never done any SEO optimization, I've got a site, it's making some sales. What are perhaps those low-hanging fruit things that I need to, put some effort into, spend some time on, that'll actually show some fairly immediate results?
Okay, so first of all, we need to do a little bit of like reality check, because a lot of new e-commerce store, because I guess this is the scenario you refer to, come to us. They say, okay, I want to rank for this 10 keywords because we think this is awesome to do that. And we're like, okay, even like there are two problems usually. One of two problems is our most popular. One, your keywords have no traffic. Okay, that's fairly simple. But second problem, you want to rank for stuff like computer. That would be surprised how many people have this idea. And I'm like, that's a crazy example, but you know what I mean. It's a very broad keyword. And I'm like, okay, if you're selling Apple and you want to purchase MacBook, it's probably not the best way to start, because that's a very like, first of all, the chances are slim that it's going to happen within a year. Secondly, we need to go a little bit deeper, create a proper structure. So you need to go with this reality check of, A, are people searching for that? B, if I rank for that, is that what people actually search to buy my product? So that's one. Second thing, after that keyword research, or you name it, make sure that your website is indexable and all of the pages that you want to have in Google have the chance of ranking. So if you have a page with a laptop that you sell, or again iPhone, that it has description, title tags, all of the very basic things, because you would be surprised how many times people just don't get it right. So it helps if you have all the markup or comments or anything that's in any ways valuable to users. And the thing is that you have to, like, I know what people would tell you, that you shouldn't compare yourself to others. In this case, you should. So just go through the results for that keyword and see, okay, if your page brings more value. So for example, if you work with, I think they're actually Magento, Muscle and Strength, they would be a huge content website, but they would also sell a lot of protein powders, stuff for I don't know, active people. So,
Right.
so to build muscle, to get fit and whatever. And they provide enormous value to people because they have hundreds of thousands of articles. And then imagine your store just started with, and you want to sell protein powders today. You need to figure out a way to make that work, to give any value to users and Google.
So you had actually sent me this quote that I found astonishing. I had never heard this, and I want to make sure we get this topic in, because I think we could spend an entire live stream just talking about this topic. But the quote is, Amazon is hiring more developers for Alexa than Google is hiring for everything. And so what does that mean for the future of voice search, and what should we be doing to prepare for that?
So I'm going to drop one more bomb that you probably didn't read because it is in fine print. But the thing is that there is this in Google, that opportunity of getting clicks is shrinking. So from year to year, you would imagine that people would search for something in Google and 100 clicks goes to websites. It's actually not the case. And I'm looking at the data here, just so I get it right. So 57% of Google searches in US have no clicks. So, and that's because, like, people would say, okay, how is that possible? So there is, like, let's say 100 searches and only 43. It's late here in Poland, so forgive my math if I'm wrong, but it's only 43 out of those 100 searches result in a click. So, and now that we understand that, we need to, okay, what's happening with this traffic? So all of those no-click results are usually a result of Google getting smarter and showing some of the results like that. So either that's weather. You won't go to a website, most likely, if you search for weather in California today, you will see a result just displayed in Google. And that happens for more and more. So one actually interesting example is, if you do the search, guys, now, I think you'll find it interesting. So if you search for McDonald's prices, you will see most of the prices listed in Google search, and you don't have to click on that. So Google has all the schema markup and all the structured data, and they can show it. So how does it translate to voice search? So now Google spent quite a lot of time over last years gathering the data from all over, from reviews, from local places. So now if you're at the restaurant, they would ask you like 10 different questions about that restaurant. So they gather all this data. So then if someone would search on phone, what's the best place to get a mojito around me, they would know, even though it's not listed on your website, even though it's nowhere to be found. They know because they have the biggest database worldwide. And now it gets really interesting with the voice search, and that's why I guess Amazon is trying to get into this battle. because obviously Google has huge uh, advantage here. But if you like right now, Google is trying to make all of these conversational. And if you watched Google I/O, which I guess is maybe not something you guys do in your community.
Yeah, we just assume we did not watch that.
Yeah, yes. Sorry for that, but just at Google I/O, they showed that you can have an assistant, a Google Assistant, call I think that was a barber shop, and make an appointment for you. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think that was a pretty popular skit or clip on social media. So I would assume most people have seen that the actual clip of that, even though they may have not watched the broadcast live.
Yeah. So that's a very good example of how much they want to dominate the market of both voice search, understanding your issues, your questions, and yeah. So right now, imagine the scenario that with all the data that Google has, you can go and that's actually a very good example. I think I took it from Cindy Crum. She's like huge in this voice search niche. So if you search if you use voice search in Google and say, show me 4-star hotels around me, Google is gonna list you like 10 hotels or so. But then you can create a follow-up question, like how many of those hotels take dogs, or how many of those hotels have pools, and you can create a talk to Google in a way that you would talk to a person, and narrow down your search. And then
how do merchants or how do agencies that are working with merchants start optimizing e-commerce experiences to take advantage of those capabilities?
Yes. So first of all, by creating a proper structure, so we're back to square one. But secondly, through using stuff like schema.org, all the markups for all of your products. So you need to be sure that Google knows that your product with a crazy name, that Google knows that, for example, this is a light bulb or whatever, and this costs $5, and your stock is 10 pieces and so on. So you can do all that fairly easy in Search Console, or if you Google schema markup, there's like hundreds of thousands of articles explaining that. But it gets, I just want to touch on one topic that's actually really exciting. It gets really interesting / creepy from this point, because now if you look at that Google has all this data about your voice search. So by using voice search, you're feeding Google a lot of extra data that you wouldn't have from a text search. So imagine you're driving your Tesla and you're searching for a mobile phone. So Google will know that, one, you drive a Tesla, so you have a specific interest in either ecology or whatever, and you have a specific income per year to afford a Tesla. But then by searching with voice on your Tesla, they know, okay, this is a male in his 30s, and his accent suggests that, for example, he's Polish, because he would have accent like, I'm imagining myself in Tesla. So yeah, so that's quite a lot of data, and there's even more. So that's quite a lot of data that Google will start gathering and seeing, okay, people driving Tesla who are Polish, they usually search for that and they buy this product. So imagine how much more like a person like how much adapt to showing you different kind of results that would more match your query. So that's really where it's going, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, with my southern accent, Google's pretty much determined that they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're
mine's
good.
much worse. Yeah, it doesn't understand me.
It's gonna suggest you pickups, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I want a car.
It's like he's from the South.
Sure,
here's a Ford ad. Yeah. Let's talk about your specialty. You mentioned that your specialty is more around JavaScript SEO, which honestly, that when we were talking earlier, is the first time I've heard that term. But progressive web apps are really popular in the e-commerce space, and or at least the topic is, and we're anticipating it being a really big thing over the next couple of years. Magento's got their PWA Studio they're pushing out, and you've got great initiatives like View Storefront or what's the Deity is the other one. I apologize to the Deity team for that not coming to me right offhand. But how does JavaScript SEO differ? Are there things when we start building these progressive web apps that we need to do differently to get, because a lot of people are going that route for the SEO benefit, the performance boost that will hopefully lead to better search ranking. And are there different things we need to be focused on when we build those sites to make sure we get that benefit?
Okay, so let's jump into that right in. And I'm gonna assume that none of you guys know what JavaScript SEO is, and I won't blame you. We were the first agency that got interested in this topic because it's fairly new in SEO community. I think it popped up first time like 2.5 years ago. And the problem is that right now, you probably all noticed like all the hype around cryptocurrencies, which is actually very similar to hype around frameworks. So everyone wants to have like their own cryptocurrency right now and their own JavaScript framework. Like Basecamp build their own JavaScript framework. God knows why. And there's a lot of big ones like Vue, Angular, React, and Angular backed up by Google. React is backed up by Facebook. And maybe I'm guessing you noticed that there's a lot of hype to use them to be very cool. Like all of the big guys would use them, like Hulu, Netflix would compete through JavaScript SEO right now. So with JavaScript versus HTML, so we're all used to to just HTML at this point. So with HTML, even if you don't know what you see in code, you see on the screen. That's fairly easy. With JavaScript, shit gets really complex. Like you can see the stuff that will pop up on a website in the code because it has to be. So your browser has to go through all the JavaScript, do all the calculations, and build the HTML out of that. And that's a huge problem for Google because there are so many frameworks. It requires a lot of CPU. And just before that, TJ, I asked him for a known website in the community, and sorry for my pronunciation. I even checked that on YouTube. It's Rural King. So it seems like a very cool website.
I went with Rural King.
I won't say anything bad
because let's not say anything bad about him. Creativity built the Rural King website, and the reason I mentioned it was just kind of top of mind. I actually saw a story on LinkedIn earlier today I read about that implementation. I believe it's one of the first Magento 2 and Magento Order Manager implementations to go live. They were on stage at Imagine. They won some awards. So that was just a website that was top of mind. So I threw that one in there for anyone that may be wondering. I think the Warrens are on vacation right now anyway, so they probably won't know. So let's continue.
So yeah. I won't say anything bad about them. I probably would find something that would go deeper though. But yeah, so imagine running a performance check on that website. So if you just open that in your browser, you wait that to load. It takes a little bit of time. Again, I won't say how much. No, yeah, I have to because I will compare that. So for me, it was up to 20 seconds to fully load all of the bells and whistles. But then, and that gets interesting here, if you switch off, and if you check why this is happening, it's because your CPU, so your processor in your computer, is taking a lot of, like a huge beating. And that beating is caused mostly by JavaScript. So if you switch off JavaScript sorry again for my pronunciation, Rural King, it will load within 6 seconds or less. So 20 seconds to 6 seconds, and this is not a JavaScript, like a plain JavaScript website, this is just a Magento website. And if you look at the performance kings like The Guardian loads quickly, so that you will see the content within like a second, but to be fully loaded, depending on the JavaScript and your CPU, it will take from like 12 seconds to even 90 seconds. So on a slow mobile, like I'm guessing that most of us in the community have either like somehow higher end mobiles. And that's not the case because the median phone used in States is Motorola G4, which is a shit phone. If any of you have Motorola G4, I'm very sorry. That's not a very good phone. Maybe that's how I should phrase it. And for example, it's I think 7 times slower or 6 times slower than iPhone X. I'm not an iPhone guy, by the way. But just iPhone X is extremely performant CPU-wise. That's a very cool thing. iPhone's CPU is more powerful than entry-level MacBook Pro 13-inch. So that's something I don't understand. So knowing that, JavaScript becomes an important factor for all of us from performance point of view, from development point of view, user point of view, how we adapt to user devices, and yeah. So with PWAs, and they're usually somehow depending on JavaScript and service workers, and it gets really, really complex at that point. So yeah, that's what we do, and that's I guess the very cool thing that you need to the very interesting thing you need to know is that Google is switching to mobile first. So Google is only going to crawl mobile version of your website from, I think, January this year. Some of the website actually, a lot of the website actually were moved to mobile first, and Google won't visit your desktop page at all. And so that's one thing to digest. So if your mobile website is shit or has less content than desktop website, that's all that Google is going to look at. So that's one very important thing. Second, performance, like mobile performance, is going to be a ranking factor starting July. And this is a very important topic and very actually exciting topic as well, because why Google did that is Google can't measure performance of your website while crawling because it depends on mobile CPU, on your connection, and all of those things that we didn't look at before in SEO community. I guess it was the same for you guys. So we never wondered like what CPU or what mobile my users would use to open my website. We just would make sure it works on all of the mobiles. But it turns out that the median phone used is actually not that great. And there comes the third thing that's actually really interesting. That now, if you want to play with that, you can access performance stats of your website from Chrome by yourself. So how to explain that quickly so I don't lose you guys with that. So if you're using Chrome, most likely you're sharing some of the data with Google. And until now, they didn't use that for rankings. And there was a lot of experiments, even though like conspiracy theories, they most likely didn't use that. So a lot of people check that. And right now they do, and they announced it, but you can preview how your website loads. So you can see, I think, time to first paint, time to there are 3 or 4 metrics you can check in. It's called CRACS, so Chrome User Experience Report. And if you do performance check, like Google has this, I forgot the name, performance tool. Google, let me Google that. So if you use, I will remember that in a second. So
yeah, they have Lighthouse. Is it Lighthouse you're talking about?
No, the one that's online when you just type in your URL and you see the Speed Insights. Sorry, Google Speed Insights. So there is a tool called Google Speed Insights. You will see a part of this data in that tool, so you don't need to go through the whole Google Cloud. It's actually a very complex process. We did that for a while, but now we can just preview that. So for us, we thought that Elephate.com, our website, would be extremely fast. It turns out it's not as fast as we expected on the mobile for our users. You can find a lot of cool stuff. And that changes the game even further, because most of us, again, would look at performance as like a first load. So you would use like GTmetrix, speed test. What do you guys use for performance? Web page test, I guess.
Yeah, there's several of them. You know, you've got like Pingdom and things like that allow you to
Pingdom.
kind of pull those up.
So most of us would look at those tools, and we did that for years. But it turns out that the data from those tools, is not really that good anymore, because Google is taking data from Chrome, and it turns out that the cache is very important. Maybe you have a service worker, so maybe your first load is shitty, but then the next visits are like blazing fast. So depending on your niche, you need to optimize different. So if you're like a Tinder, and I'm guessing people would go to Tinder to spend a little bit of time on that website, you can make sure to cache a lot of stuff. So maybe the first visit is going to be slower, but the next visit, the next reloads are going to be extremely fast. So you can use a lot of things to do that. But if you're Quora, and I'm guessing people would visit Quora once in a while, searching for, I don't know, how to clean up wine stains, you need to make sure that the first visit is just blazing fast. So we need to have different strategies now for performance, for mobile. So that's a huge game changer.
The biggest takeaway from that for me was that we really need to focus on not just the download time, but also the CPU resources of the device, or kind of the reference device that is used to determine whether or not our page loads fast. Is there anything more to that we really need to be doing and actually acting upon to make our sites a little more mobile friendly, or at least a little more mobile search friendly?
Yes, and I'm sorry. Yes, and I'm looking for a link, but there are new metrics right now. So Google mentioned, and it's not only for Google, but Google mentioned that they will focus on a brand new. I'm looking for a place to. But yeah, Google mentioned they will look at different metrics now. So there are things like fully loaded is not as important anymore, because again, if you go to The Guardian, which is one of the fastest websites out there, it would load like for 12 seconds, but you would see the content. You can interact with the content within like 1 second. So that would be faster than AMP pages, all of those supposedly quick Google cached pages. So first meaningful paint would be something to look into. Time to interactive is also, sorry guys, it's just almost 9 p.m. here, and that's my bedtime sometimes. Yeah, but time to the interactive. So how soon you can interact with a website is really important now. So I would drop, like if you use GTmetrix like I did for a while, they would look at the fully loaded, which doesn't say anything, because most of the really performant websites like Netflix or The Guardian, whatever, would have like very bad times, like very poor performance scores. So, and with the Lighthouse that you mentioned, you can see how your website loads over time. So you can see, okay, guys, this website would load within 5 seconds, but all of the content would show up just like that after 4th second, when that should be gradually, so you can see the data and stuff like that. So if you're looking for weather, the first meaningful paint would be the moment when you can see the weather tomorrow. And even if the website would still load for 5 more seconds, you've got some value to read, to look at, and what you came for. Yeah, sorry.
he's the finger on the buttons are throwing him off every time over here.
I'm just, yeah.
Keep your questions
I'm just
coming.
I feel like I'm going off topic a little bit. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, keep your questions coming in the chat. Yeah, we have a few. I'm going to get to my one last question I have here, and then we're going to start answering questions in the chat. So please, don't worry about dominating the chat. Keep posting those questions if you have multiple ones. That's what we're here for. My last question here before we get to the viewer submissions, and I know you're not necessarily you're more the technical SEO guy, but maybe you can provide some insight on this. And back in the day, it used to be easy to kind of game the system and get links. Yeah, you know, you've got the technical SEO, but you really need links from other websites as a sign of trust. And so you could use link farms, and you could have directories where you were link swapping, and there were a lot of things you can do. And obviously, you don't want to do those things anymore. You want to stay away from black hat techniques if you want to build something lasting. So kind of what's the best way right now to build those backlinks and to build that trust with Google?
Actually, that's a very good question. That's something that we do. Like, my business partner is in charge of content marketing. So we're divided in two parts. So I do all the geeky stuff with my team here. Actually, no one is in the office right now. So my team that was here today, and my business partner Wojtek is doing all the content marketing. And we, just to brag a little bit, we won the best SEO campaign in UK last year for content marketing for the tire store, when we, I think, had 400%, sorry, that would be too great. 400% growth over 2 years for, like, in a very competitive niche. So we won the award for just content marketing, mostly a little bit of technical SEO here and there. And this year, we won Best Small SEO Agency in Europe. And I don't have any point to that, just wanted to brag. But yeah, so answering to your question, our roots were in deep black hat SEO. So we started doing, please don't tweet that. We started doing mostly casinos and all of those, payday loans, some websites I won't mention as well, but we did a lot of that. And we had a setup that built like 4 million links per 10 minutes. And that was back in, I would say, 2010 or so. I think that everyone was doing that, and we were in Poland, which was like encouraging, because that was what most people were doing here. So we started there. So that was our beginnings. And I remember around 2012, I was the first guy in Poland who said that we don't want to do that anymore. I had my first kid. She was 2 years old. I was like, it's not really the way to grow your business long term. And I'm going to switch completely to white hat SEO, and it's going to be as white as it gets. And I remember people at conferences like making fun of me. There was a lot of memes on the internet with me saying, like they would be saying that there are people who do white hat and there are people who rank, which was probably true back then. But that's actually how we grew to this point, having like 34 people here, working with some of the companies from top 50 biggest companies in the world. Was we gave up on that. So that out of the way, how to do that properly. So we started by just a little bit of a story. Is that our first thing that got us a little bit famous outside of our country, which was difficult at the very beginning, was Expedia drop. So Expedia dropped in rankings completely. I think it was 2014, 15, don't remember really, but let's say 14-ish. And there was no one in the world who could analyze the drop because they had so many backlinks. And there was a lot of like Forbes and USA Today would write that there was like victims, like Expedia was a victim of negative SEO. And with our background in processing a lot of links, that wasn't a problem for us at that time, because we still had a lot of, a little bit dusty but good old tools. So we went through all of the Expedia backlinks, and we wrote, if you Google Expedia case study, I think it was published on Link Research Tools, and we found out that Expedia built a WordPress plugin with a link in the footer and did a lot of very, very shady things to rank, and they dropped. And that was the first moment when big brands started dropping. And there was like Halifax later on, like the bank from UK, and there was Rapid Genius in States. There were, like I already mentioned, eBay for a different reason. There was a lot of big brands dropping. So we spent a few years trying to figure out how to get links without, all of the networks. because you can still do networks. Like they probably work, but I know 2 guys in the whole world who do networks that work, and those guys spend millions of euros on those over last 15 years. So if you want to do networks now, you're late to the party. So, and that's probably not for big brands. You can do casinos and porn websites with those. They work still pretty well, but I wouldn't do them for Magento websites. So how to get links is we have a very basic way. So we basically build content that's for some reason interesting enough that it gets coverage. So as in one of the examples, we work with a website that lists all of the properties. So we did like a survey, like what's the property website in the States? I forgot the name. Zillow? Zillow, is it?
Yeah, Zillow is one. Yes.
So like a Zillow, but in Europe. So we did a huge survey asking a lot of people renting flats. They were usually students or immigrants or whatever, about the biggest problems. And there was what we found out during those surveys. I think we did like a few thousand of those. That was like a lot of work, probably like 2 or 3 months of work, where it was gold. Like what people were complaining was really interesting. And we gathered that in a huge document that we published. And soon enough, all of the newspapers picked it up. Like that was a very easy story for a guy working at the newspaper looking for a cool thing. So some of the quotes were hilarious. Like people would say that they would move into the flat and explain some of the very bizarre scenarios, like rats in the fridge or whatever. And some of the quotes would be so honest that it would be just so funny. We published those, and they got a lot of links, and we were actually pissed off. I think we have that on the wall. There are some newspapers that actually published that on the first page or on the and we're like, fuck, why did you publish that in a newspaper? Where's the link? So that was like, there would be people talking about that in the radio, and it was like, how is that helping us? But yeah, that's one of the that's the way we do that. And for the agency, which is the second thing, and probably that's how somehow you found me, with a lot of very hot topics like JavaScript SEO. We've built first experiments showing all of the frameworks, all of the popular frameworks. So every single page of the experiment will be a different JavaScript framework. We checked how Google is indexing those, and we published that data. It was a huge value for everyone. So there would be people in my head is so there would be people in large websites that everyone would know having the problem that we launched the website on Angular, and why isn't that rank? Oh, Airbnb, for example. They would contact me, and I think that was Airbnb, and looking at our data and just using that for their use. And I think this one article, it was one of many we did, but just as an example, this one article got like 200 referring domains or more within a month. So it's just like with building e-commerce store. If we provide a huge value to your audience, people will link to you. And this is a huge cliche that I was laughing at for years. But once you actually, get into the zone of doing that well, and if you feel that, then yeah, we're actually excited about SEO. So we did that just because we were excited. We didn't expect that to get links, but yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into your questions. We're going to continue. I've got us booked for a whole nother hour. Now, whether we go another hour depends on you asking questions. We're here for you at this point. We've got a few questions in the chat. Please keep them coming. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Remember to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And I'm going to get to the first question here. We've got it from Mage Mail. Mage Mail, thanks for joining. And the question is, how can someone leverage SEO for short-term success versus long-form SEO building blogs? So, what's your advice around, maybe some short-term tips versus more of a longer-term strategy around blogs?
There's always this one question. So it's difficult with SEO and short-term success. It depends what you mean by short-term. But if we have, let's say, 3 months, that's what I would assume is short-term in SEO. Then SEO building blogs. What do you mean by how do you understand, TJ, SEO building blogs?
I'm assuming he's really talking more about content management, putting out or content marketing, putting out content. You've got blogs, which are, you're building content on your site.
Okay.
That's how I read that. So
Okay.
putting content out there, maybe it's not necessarily SEO or excuse me, e-commerce. I don't think MageMail is doing a ton of e-commerce. So, what's the SEO around creating content on your site, and is there a different strategy around getting a short-term gain for those versus more of a long-term cumulative effect?
Okay, so that's fairly easy. Like, there was this concept for years where people would build a blog and would publish once per week. And there was a lot of articles saying, okay, if you publish once per week, Google is used to that and you will rank higher, blah, 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 blah. So all that is nonsense. So if we look at long-term strategy, short-term strategy, it doesn't matter. If you want to publish anything, 97%, I think it's 97% of blog posts, they don't rank and they don't get, no one is reading them. So this is where it gets tricky. I had a project with my wife where we built a content website. We hired some people. We wanted to, make that work with just publishing 20 articles a day, and it didn't. So you need to, shockingly, you need to be sure that you're in the 3%, which is the whole. It's easy and hard at the same time. So if you sell, give me something, TJ. If you sell what?
You sell whiskey right here, right?
Oh yeah, that's a great example. So if you sell whiskey, creating an article how to buy whiskey, like different types of whiskey, is useless because there is just so much stuff online, and I wouldn't imagine that article going viral because why? But if you share, like, if you're an expert in the industry, if you have some empathy to know what people are searching for or what would be very interesting for people, for example, if you just brainstorming real quick, if you take 10 types of whiskey and you take some, there are these things in aquariums when you can check some ingredients and you compare that, so you can, okay, this whiskey has more phosphates, this whiskey has more alcohol, whatever, and you publish that data. It's very geeky, but I'm definitely sure that this approach will get you somewhere very quick. So I wouldn't do blog building either short or long term by publishing stuff that doesn't get viral. So one more example, at Elephate, we were publishing 12 articles per month for the last 6 months. And I asked our digital content department to stop. So we had this huge mission to get everyone in the agency to write something because they were excited about different topics, and none of them wrote that for SEO. They chose very bizarre topics. Like one of them was how to tell your family what you're doing in a daily work, or how to tell your family you're doing SEO, which was like very bizarre. But it turns out that, again, more than 80% of those articles didn't get more than 300 visits. But there were articles by Tomek, who I already mentioned, our R&D guy, and like huge geek, that got like 15,000 visits within a month or more, because he's really an expert in the topic. He was so excited. We needed to trim his content by half because he was just right. So that would be an approach I would go with.
So really it's about just trying to find topics that people are more interested in. It's better to focus on detailed, highly specific technical topics, or fully entertaining, shareable content than it is to just go in bulk. Right?
I'm gonna pitch it to you, but I really hope that none of the viewers is gonna do that. We had this idea of how to create an extremely viral article about SEO that would go outside of SEO niche. So there's this algorithm called TF-IDF. It's basically how Google knows that if you write about Java, you write about coding language, coffee, island, they would figure out this algorithm which words are specific to the topic. So they would have Java, the next word would be also doing, okay, you talk about Java island. And we wanted to use that algorithm to go through like 50 Shades of Grey or Lord of the Rings, some of the books, and see the most important words in those books and create something that's going to be extremely funny. So like a tutorial how to write the next 50 Shades of Grey based off the 100 words that were very often used, or phrases, or 3-word phrases. That's something we found really funny and geeky, and we were like, okay, if we do that in a very creative way, this is going to go wide. And we're actually halfway through the process. It takes us a while, but just as an example.
No, I mean, that's a great example because that sounds like a topic I would read. Some highly detailed technical topic on SEO or how to do some specific SEO function. I might glance at the title, but I would breeze past it. But, you know, analyzing a book and pulling out the keyword, I mean, that just sounds like an interesting article. So definitely shoot me a link to that whenever you get it completed. We're going to move on to the next.
It's going to happen soon.
We are halfway done, man. Halfway done. Hopefully nobody writes it before you now that you've spilled beans.
It's very complex. So yeah.
So we're going to move on to the next question. Again, hit that subscribe button while you're here. Thumbs up the video, please. Max Pronko. Max, welcome to the live stream. And Max, his question is, what is the best approach for optimizing website content? Should we optimize for users or crawlers when we talk about SEO optimization?
Very good question, Max. I already like you. Wherever you live, we need to meet one day.
Max is the king. Max is the king of Magento YouTube at this point. He has 1,500 subscribers. He does some great technical Magento videos where he explains, you know, how to develop on Magento and do different things. So yeah, check out Max. He does a great job.
I will after that, because when I click something, it's a mess. Don't buy so super wide monitors. I already talked to that about that with TJ. But anyways, going back to the answer. So it's actually very interesting, because if you have an article, looking at the example of one of our clients, let's say you want to rank for workout routines. Let me check real quick if they rank top 1 for that. So if you want to rank for workout routine, and you can see that for this specific keyword, it's huge traffic, and most of the articles would be very long form. You can basically see some of the features, but at the same time, it's difficult to manually say, okay, my article needs to cover this topic, it has to be this wide, and so on. So there are tools that let you optimize for both users and Google. So you don't keyword stuff like, you know, workout routine is a routine when you work out or whatever. So you saw those kind of articles back in 2012, I guess. So that's exactly TF-IDF I mentioned. So you can do that with write.com, for example. It's actually, if you Google TF-IDF, we rank, I hope, number 1 or 4, like somewhere in the top 3. So Elephate, just Google TF-IDF. There's a whole guide to do that. But just to give you an overview, what it does, it will tell you what keywords you're missing, what keywords you're overusing, and what keywords are very relevant to people searching for that, based on what's ranking in top 20 or whatever. And how long should the article be, and all of those things. So it's really cool, especially when you write an article. Then Searchmetrics has the whole content experience based on that lets you write a brand new article that's data driven. So it's gonna get all of the data and be like your writing aid. So you write and it's gonna show you, okay, you should use this keyword. So there's a lot of very exciting headlines from that. It's so much easier to write a good article with all that data on the side.
So the next question is another one from Mage Mail, and the question is, do website bounce rates affect Google rankings?
I actually did a huge experiment with that, and this is a topic that's just, if you ask 4 SEOs, you will get 4 answers. So I'll give you my story because I was deeply involved in the beginning. So my first viral article published on my website was negative SEO with no backlinks. And then what I did, I wrote a bot that would search for a keyword, click on the website, go back to Google, and click on a different website. And the website that he would go back from would rank lower after that. So that was a way to do negative SEO. And we actually did that after one of our clients, we suspected he was attacked in this way. We want to check if it's possible. And I did it to my own website, and I basically pushed my rankings from position number 3 to position number 12. And okay, it was possible, very simple bot, searching for, let's say, Viagra, clicking on website number 2, going back to Google and clicking on the website number 2. And this is called pogo sticking, and it's not really the bounce rate you see in Google Analytics. It's basically like giving clear information to Google that I went to this website, I didn't find what I was looking for, and I went to the other one, because Google has just one goal: to terminate search. But now it gets interesting. After that, I repeated that experiment 1 or 2 years ago. I think it was 2016-ish. And it didn't work anymore. And we had a whole setup of unique IPs. So just to give you an idea of how the setup worked, was we had this USB stick with a GSM connection, like 3G connection. And after each search, it would disconnect and connect. So we had fresh IP every single time from 4 dividers. So we had 4 USB sticks, 4 laptops doing searches. So it is very realistic. The only thing that we didn't have is we were not logged into Google accounts. But then I repeated that. I was keynoting at a conference in Munich in 2016, and I asked the whole audience to do that for me. There was like 500 people, and a lot of them did that with 0 effect. So after that, I gave up, and I figured, okay, this is not working anymore, and that would be very easy to trick Google in this way. So I wouldn't worry about bounce rate as a ranking factor in this way. But right now, I would more focus maybe on performance, and performance maybe of like delivering. So just to explain the bounce rate a little bit more, if you like, Google will rank you sometimes for a week for a new keyword to see if you if you terminate search. So there is a new keyword. You wrote an article about, I don't know, rabbits, and you will rank for a keyword rabbit for a week. And if all of the users are going to be unhappy, you will drop, which is something that's also not really confirmed 100%, but this is what a lot of SEOs believe in, and I find it logical because I saw that happening a lot of times. But if you're a good match for rabbits, you will stay. So, but that's, again, not based on documentation from Google.
Yeah, just make sure you're a good match for rabbits, or whatever term you're trying to
Everyone
rate
should,
for.
yeah.
Right. Another question here from Max. Guys, keep the questions coming, as this is the last one I've got on the docket. So when we run out of questions, we run out of time. Max asked, in 2018, does it really matter to have second-level URLs for blog posts leading with /blog, or the best way is to have first-level content as blog doesn't really bring value? I'm not sure I understand that question.
I think I know what Max refers to.
Okay.
So I guess what Max means is that you have a blog. So you go to rabbits.com/blog, and you click on the article, and the blog slag is removed from the URL, which is fine now. So Google is smart enough, so you can solve that in a lot of different ways. You can do breadcrumbs. You need to make sure that Google knows. Oh, sorry, I was hoping that Max replied if that was what he means. So we try to shorten the URLs as well. I'm guessing that's what you refer to. So if you have a complex structure, it's sometimes okay to skip one of the slugs and make it a little bit easier for users to copy paste or just type the address or whatever. So I would still do rabbits.com/blogs and blog. And if you click on the article, it doesn't have to blog/article. It can be just rabbits.com/article. That would be fine for me, and for Google, I'm sure too.
All right. We've got one more question here from Mage Mail. What recommendations do you make to customers that are launching a new product line?
That's a good question, Mage Mail. That's a very good question. So actually, this is a problem with a lot of startups that we work with. So we had startups that would have this awesome sleeping masks that would help you to have vivid dreams or whatever, or all of these fancy new products that are even difficult to describe. And my friend from Australia my friend from Australia, Dan Petrovich, did this thing when he had a lot of clients with products that were new and he couldn't find a keyword to match it with. And he did Google surveys. So he paid people like 10 cents or $1 per survey. He would show the photo of the product in the description with a question, how would you search for that? And stuff that came back from that survey was like, wow, like I would never try to do that. So, and especially now with Kickstarter and all those weird things that they're producing all over the place, like meditation headband that I bought in States. I have no idea if I would ever search for that if I didn't hear about the brand, because there's like a headband that you wear on your head that monitors your brainwaves. Like you can imagine how many keywords people would use to search for that. So if there's a new product line, I highly recommend going with Google Survey. You will have a lot of fun for sure. Yeah.
All right. It
if
looks
that
like
was your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was great advice. I don't know if you're looking for technical advice, but I think that's definitely how you are a great way of finding out how people might be looking for whatever you're selling. So it looks like we're through all of the questions. I appreciate everyone watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, hit the thumbs up on the video. It really helps us out, provides us some feedback that we're doing a good job and that we're finding great topics for you. It looks like we've got one or two more questions here. If we'll go ahead and get those answered before we call it quits. So I can't even talk. Maybe I've had too much to drink already. I don't know. I'm trying to do three things at one time here. Look at the camera, read the chat, hit the buttons.
This bottle was full when we started.
Yeah, they can. This is all on tape. They can watch it back. All right. Here's a couple of questions. Mage Mail asks, do guest blogs truly rank higher than organic blog posts?
No. Just no. It doesn't matter. If I had guessed, no. It doesn't matter. You can publish your content anywhere you like. So I guess we have a little bit of time, so I can expand on that. So for us at Elephate, when we do guest blogs, it's always a strategy. So if we know that we have something extremely viral that will just explode, like we had this ultimate guide to JavaScript or ultimate guide to crawlers or the JavaScript experiment, whatever, we try to push the stuff that won't get viral straight away, but we know there is a huge value to external publications. Like we would publish stuff on moz.com or all of these websites when we know that this is going to be huge, but needs a little bit of like this initial kick for people to understand the topic. But if we have something that's extremely that we're totally sure it's going to go viral, we usually publish that on our website because we want all those links and whatever. And so so come up with any strategy that works for you. Yeah.
All right, we've got one more question in the chat here. Russell mentions that he's joining late. Russell, we're glad to have you anytime, and you can watch the whole stream back on the YouTube channel. We'll be posting an edited version next week sometime as well, and this will be the first episode in our podcast series as well. I'm not sure how this format is going to work as a podcast, but we're going to edit it. We're going to find out, and if it's garbage, then just don't listen to it. There's really nothing I can say other than that. But his question is, may I request your specific SEO suggestions to get an old but popular e-commerce post updated? So how do you revive something? Something that was doing well and now it's old. How do we get that sucker back up there?
Just to get some time. Yes, you may request my suggestion, of course. So again, that's really cool because there was an experiment back in the day in SEO community where someone figured out that a lot of publishers, large newspapers, I don't know who, but let's say I know USA Today, probably not them, but not sure who that was, would change the dates of their posts every week to the dates either from today or even from the future. Like the post would be published tomorrow, and they got a huge ranking boost. So first of all, it's always a good idea to update. I wouldn't do it that way though. But first of all, if you update your content and you change the date of the article being published in a way that Google understands that, so there is some structured data or whatever, that's just by itself is going to give you a little extra kick. So I wouldn't do anything super fancy. Just go with TF-IDF. I mentioned before. You can rewind back in the video. So TF-IDF is going to tell you, okay, maybe there are some new topics about this article, about maybe there are some new things that people mentioned right now that it's not covered in my article. So if you cover diet, let's say, and your article is 3 years old, and you have the ultimate guide to all of the diets, I'm guessing you don't have some of the new diets that are very popular, like you don't have like keto diet that wasn't popular three years ago or whatever. So I would make sure that you use TF-IDF. That will show you that a lot of the articles that compete with you mention keto diet, for example, so ketogenic one, or mention paleo that you don't have in your article. And if you update that, it's just all you have to do.
So just modernize your post a little bit. We've got another question here from Mage Mail. Can you piggyback SEO from the blog in your SM post content?
So just tell me if I understand that right, because if you didn't tell, my English is not my first language. So if you can reuse the content from social media on your blog.
Let's see. Can you piggyback SEO from the blog in your social media post content? I think that's it. Yeah. How to effectively utilize your blog posts in social media. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh,
can you
so
tie those
from
together?
the blog to social media? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So some social media, like some platforms, will help you do that. So, for example, would you consider, TJ, Medium.com being a social media platform?
I mean, I wouldn't exactly, like if somebody told me to list all the social media platforms, I would not throw them in there, but I could see that argument being made.
Yeah, so some of the platforms will allow you to publish stuff externally. Like for example, Medium.com. I think that LinkedIn does that as well. I'm not sure about this one though. And if you publish article from your blog to Medium.com, there is that option that Medium.com can add a canonical tag back to your blog post, original one, telling Google, okay, this is a copy from Rabbit.com. Let's stick with this example. And Rabbit.com should rank for that and should get all of the credit. We're just reposting that content. So that would be one of the very good ideas to do that. Pasting, copying that to a place with no canonical are definitely gonna just make your website rank lower. So I wouldn't that with no canonical. Maybe if the other place can have a no index tag, so if you can publish that somewhere, you can play with that and have that with no index tag, so it's not indexed in Google, that's fine as well.
How I would touch on that as well, though, is I mean, you could definitely, and feel free to chime in on this. You can definitely leverage those other platforms to your benefit, especially if you're not ranking well, right? I mean, even if you didn't use the tag to tie it back to your website, if Medium ranks better than your website does, you can still leverage that to try to drive traffic, correct?
Yeah, that would be like one of those short-term wins that maybe in some scenarios probably is a good solution. Make sure that you do something long-term as well. But yeah, like we would probably consider that even in our situation, when we rank pretty well for stuff we publish, maybe publishing something to Medium and see, okay, maybe this article can rank top 1. Maybe at the same time, that would be very good use of that. So you rank number 1 and 2. So if you search for JavaScript SEO, we usually rank either 1 or 2, or 2 or 3. So we have 2 articles already ranking very high. So publishing third one on our blog probably Google wouldn't show 3 articles from our blog, even though we're considered an expert source, I guess, by Google because we publish so much about JavaScript. So maybe publishing the third one on a Medium or a 5th one on LinkedIn, or Facebook has the thing now as well, would be a very good idea to dominate Google. So that would be a cool hack to try. We actually may do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I've actually used that technique around some geographies. We sponsor a lot of meetups, and if you search for Magento and the city or the state that those meetups are in, you'll see our site, which we haven't even completely optimized for the terms yet. You'll see the meetup page. You'll see the venue. There's I think one of the geographies we sponsor meetups in. At one point, if you searched for Magento in that geography, we were 6 or 7 of the top 10 organic results linked back to us.
That's a great idea. I would definitely do that because Google won't show 10 results from one URL from one domain for sure, because that's not logical. I don't think I need to explain that. So that would be one of the ways.
Definitely. On to the next question, guys. Keep the questions coming. When we run out, we quit. We've got 30 minutes left here. If you keep asking questions, we'll go that long. So keep them coming. Russell here with another question. How should we plan PPC and SEO together for an e-commerce website? What's the synergy between those, and what's the best way to kind of utilize those to get the maximum benefit for each?
So again, Russell, you will have to rewind a little bit, but if you start with a structure and write information architecture, that's basically that helps both PPC and SEO, because that creates a very good match between a keyword and result. So that, in our experience, that helps a lot with PPC. So there would be a lot of PPC. We don't do PPC ourselves, but we work with PPC teams of our clients or external teams, and quite often they would create like a landing page just for PPC that's not indexed, that's with like a ugly URL or whatever. So we try to avoid that and make sure that the structure for SEO and PPC drives traffic to a website that would match good with there would be very good match between a query and a result. That's
all right. So we're moving on to the last question here, which is how I was going to finish this anyway. And MageMail asks a great question, and how we should always wrap up one of these live streams. How can my e-commerce merchants reach out to you for SEO help? So if anyone wants to know more, wants to learn from you, wants to engage you in helping them with their SEO, how do they find out more?
That's fairly easy, either through social media. So Twitter, my surname is maybe not the easiest one, but you can copy paste that from the description. But my email is Bartosz at Góralewicz, so my surname.com. So you just copy my name and surname and do at and com, and that's it. Or go to elephate.com. You will find a lot of cool stuff at our website. We spent a lot of time recently pushing content. So go to elephate.com and contact us through there.
Yeah, and I posted the URL in the chat. I will also edit the description of this video. It should have already been in there, my oversight. I will make sure I have a link to elephate.com so that you can check that out. I appreciate everyone watching. Next week, we're going to have a team member from Vertex on to discuss the South Dakota versus Wayfair sales tax Supreme Court decision. Looks like the world of e-commerce, at least as far as sales tax in the United States is concerned, is changing. So you need to know how that's going to affect you or your clients if you're a developer. So please join us for that live stream, same time, same place. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.